All right, let's talk about the Revic PMR 428. So this scope is going to revolutionize the scope industry. The guys at Gunworks did a spin-off company, Revic Optic. They worked on this for years. When they first started on it, some of the technology and ideas that they came up with didn't have technology to support the ideas, but eventually it came together and we got this scope. So it's a 4-28 power optic. It looks a lot like a Gen 2 Vortex Razor. We'll start. So there's really going to be two aspects of this scope. The mechanical portion of it, just like every scope that you're used to using, and then there's going to be the piece that really sets this apart, and that's the onboard ballistics and the heads-up display. So we'll start with the mechanical part of it. It's got all the features that you're used to. It's got a 4-20, it's actually a 4.5 to 28, but it's got a 4.5 to 28 power dial here. The battery for the onboard ballistics information heads-up display is in the actual throw lever. It comes in several different reticles. There's a couple different MOA reticles and a couple different mill reticles, and I'll throw some pictures in of those reticles. I think they have something that would suit most people. Parallax knob, super smooth. It is on par with some of the best scopes out there. Both of the turrets are lockable, which I really love. I really think this is how every long-range hunting scope should be, lockable turrets. It's got 0 to 30 minutes, so it's 30 minutes per rev on this, and the clicks are super nice. They're, like I said, they're on par with anything out there. With a 30 minutes per rev, it's gonna feel a lot like an ATAC R. Like I said, they're lockable. Mechanically, the 0 set is one of the nicest I've seen, but what you do is once you get your 0, so let's kind of walk through this real quick. You'll get it to where you need to go. So if you had to dial up to get rifle 0'd, you would dial to that number, and then you would just put a little tool in here. A bullet actually works, and that's how it was designed to be quote-unquote toolless. You can put a bullet in here, a cartridge with a bullet, push down, and I'll do some close-ups of. All right, so here we're going to talk about setting the 0. And I've already got this set, so I'm not going to mess with it, and that might frustrate a bunch of you, but it's really simple. So like I said, let's just say you just shot a 3-shot group on paper, and it was 5 minutes low. So we'll just go up here, we'll dial it to 5 minutes. You can shoot 3 more if you want to confirm, and let's say you did do that, you shot 3 more, and now it's right on your 0, right where you want it to hit. Whether it's 100 yards or 200 yards, it doesn't matter. You've got it on what your 0 is going to be. Okay, you just put your bullet in here, you would hold the turret, you'd push this down, and you would turn it clockwise. And it says disengage, and it has an arrow pointing clockwise. So you would disengage it. With it disengaged, you would turn it to 0. It'll hit the 0 stop internally, so it shouldn't turn below 0. And then you would put your bullet back in here, you would hold the turret, and you'd go counterclockwise where it says engage. And then it would be just like this, okay? Now, let's say you shot a 3-shot group and it was high. Let's say it was 5 minutes high. So what you would do is you would put it on the 0 here, disengage it by turning it clockwise, just like we talked about a second ago. Then you would turn it to 5 minutes, and at this point, it shouldn't be clicking. It should be spinning freely, okay? Then you would hold the turret, put your bullet down in here, and go to engage. So turn it counterclockwise. Okay, now it's engaged and it's setting at the 5 minutes. So when you dial it, it should dial down 5 minutes. You can shoot your 3-shot group or whatever you want to do to confirm, but you should be at 0. Okay, and like I said, it doesn't matter if it's 100 yards or 200 yards. Whenever you set it up in the app, you will determine whether it's 100 yards or 200 yards 0, and then internally it will make the ballistic software match your 0. Without talking about the electronics, this scope, in my experience, I've been running this thing for almost a year now, has been on par with anything else I've used mechanically. There is one downfall to this scope, and that's the fact that it weighs roughly 3 pounds. So actually, when I ordered this Magnus, Landon had talked me into actually getting the Revic on it, and I thought, what did I have to lose? So I went ahead and got it, and I love it. And we'll kind of try to round up why I think it is truly different. And it's not just talking about how it performs mechanically, optically, or even the electronics in it. It's really the package that sets it apart. So like I said, mechanically, the thing dials, it tracks, it's repeatable. Every time I dial to a number in the heads-up display, the bullet goes where it's supposed to. That stuff's great. So like I said, great parallax knob, great clicks. I like the fact that it's got 30 minutes per rev. The 0 stop is super easy to set, and it has a nice smooth zoom throw here. Now, let's talk about the onboard ballistics. So inside, it has a heads-up display that will show you the yardage that the ballistic calculator says that your bullet is going to impact and give a 0 at said yardage. So for instance, out here where I'm shooting right now today, 565 yards, I would dial this until the heads-up display read 565 yards. And if you looked at the MOA marks on the turret, it would line up with your favorite ballistic calculator, somewhere in the 8.5 minute range from my 200 yard 0. You go in, you add the ballistic information into the Revic app, and then put it into the Revic scope, and you're good to go. Confirm your data, dial, shoot, and it's worked great for me. And I'll put a drop-in video here. We'll walk through the setup of the phone, and then we'll put it into the Revic, and I'll show you what that heads-up display looks like. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and walk through setting up your Revic scope. Okay, you're going to need the companion app, so just go get it out of the app store. I've already got it installed here. We're not going to walk through installation of the app. So we're going to go to the profile manager. We're going to add, and we're going to go to the firearm. This one happens to be 0 at 100 yards. It's a .243 caliber. The scope height on mine is 2.250. Obviously you'll enter yours, select MOA or mils. This one happens to be in mils. And the twist rate of my barrel is 7.5 right hand twist. Then we're going to go down here to the ammo. 29.45 average velocity. And we're going to skip down here to the G7 ballistic coefficient, which is 292 on this bullet. The bullet weight is 109. The bullet length is 1.277 on this one. Obviously you'll need to get yours either by measuring it or getting it from the manufacturer's spec sheet. Okay, so next, that's all of our information there. We're going to save this. We're going to come back in here and we're going to edit it. And I'm just going to call this 6GT 109 long range hybrid target. We're going to save that. Okay, so now we've got that there on the profiles. So we'll go over here, we'll go into the scope. Okay, inside the scope here, we'll go hit enter with the scope turned on. We'll go clear to the right and hit enter on that little Wi-Fi symbol. On the Bluetooth, we're going to turn it on. Okay, now it's on and our Revic PMR pops up here. We're going to hit the little Wi-Fi symbol and then it should be connected. So we're going to select the one we want to sync. Once this connects here, we'll get a little pop-up asking if we want to sync this. Okay, so it is connected. I've got a little orange highlighted on my 109 LRHT for the 6GT, and then you get this sync selected profiles with connected devices. We're going to click that. It's syncing. And it says one profile uploaded successfully to the optic. Okay, we're going to put the phone aside for a minute. The one profile in here. We're going to go ahead and walk through the screen real quick. So we'll hit enter to go up to the top here. So this is where you would zero the software of the scope up here. So you'd come down here, you'd hit enter, and then you would, with it mechanically zeroed, you would hold this button and it'll set the zero to whatever you said that it was zeroed at. In the case of this was 100 yards. So then we'll come over here and we'll go through the heads-up display settings. You got your ambient temperature, your pressure, you got your GPS type stuff, your azimuth, your latitude, you got your ballistic profiles. Here's, if you had more than one, you would go up and down to select those. Here's your sleep time, your menu return time, and then here you've got Bluetooth on and Bluetooth off. Okay, so we're going to go back to the home screen here. You can see your level right there, and let's go ahead and do the wind. So to access wind, you hit the left or right arrows, and that gets you into the wind vectors. Okay, you just go left and right to move it to your vector. So if you had a 3 o'clock wind, you'd hit here. To go up and down, you would just hit the up and down button. Pretty quick, pretty easy to access that. So that's a basic overview of the menu system there. The thing that really makes this scope stand out, that makes it worth the 3 pounds that it weighs to me, is one thing. I hunt a lot with other people. I do some guided hunts. A lot of times if those people aren't individuals that you shoot with on a daily basis, they maybe don't understand the communication involved in long range hunting. You get an animal, you get dialed, you get everything set up, you range it, your buddy ranges it, whatever. They tell you how many minutes you need to dial, and then the animal moves 10 or 15 yards. And let's say it's at 700 or 800 yards. That's gonna require a turret correction, you're gonna have to make another dial. You'll have to rearrange it, wait for the rangefinder to give you a dial in minutes, or go to your ballistic app on your phone and get a new dial. That all takes seconds, and by the time you get that dialed in and everything settled back out, the animal might move again. This scope, you range it, they tell you a range, anyone can tell you a range. There doesn't need to be any complicated communication. You don't have to work that out. You don't have to wait for putting a new calculation into your ballistic calculator and having someone tell you what that is. You have to wait for your rangefinder to give you a MOA dial or mil dial, whatever it is you're using. They tell you a range. You don't even have to come off of the gun. Your cheek weld doesn't need to come undone. You do not need to take your cheek off of the rifle. You do not need to take your eye out of the scope. They tell you a range, you dial it. The scope tells you what that is in the heads-up display, you squeeze the trigger. I think over the course of owning this setup that it's probably going to save me a couple missed opportunities at taking a nice animal. And if you think about all the time you were trying to get set up and the animal got away, it just went over the hill, went behind some bush, you never saw it again, or maybe you didn't, maybe you turned it up and killed it, you know, a couple days later in the hunt. But the fact is, I can almost guarantee if you think back in your hunting situations, you've probably missed an opportunity because of the long drawn process of getting a dial from your spotter to the shooter. Or if you're by yourself, it's even more because you've got to wait for that rangefinder. And it maybe doesn't sound like a lot to some people, but it does take time. So this is going to save you some missed opportunities. I can almost guarantee it. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. We talked about the mechanical portions of it. We talked about the features I really like. The clicks are nice on the turrets, the 0 to 30 MOA, 30 minutes per rev. Parallax knob is great. The zoom ring is nice and smooth. We talked about the heads-up display. We looked at the reticles. I think they're all great reticles. And then we talked about we walked through setting up a ballistics profile and getting it into this scope. And then we talked about what really truly sets this scope apart from other scopes and why I really think you should check it out, even though it does weigh a little bit more. So I think it covers it. If you're looking for a long-range hunting scope, this is something you should consider. And if you're going to consider this scope, maybe you could actually build your rifle around it. Maybe err a little bit on the lighter side, and then it comes in at a nice, very shootable weight rifle when it's all said and done. Like I said, if you're looking for a long-range hunting optic, you need to take a look at the Revic PMR 428. I'll have a link in the description below to a thread on the forum. You can ask me any questions on there. If you're not a member already, it's quick, it's free, it's easy to sign up. We would love to have you. There's a great group of guys, and that number is growing daily. Please like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and turn on notifications so you'll know when we put out future videos. We appreciate you taking the time to watch. Have a great day.